Good morning. Thank you guys for joining us and what would be hopefully a very relevant conversation, especially with about AI agents and adoption in the enterprise. I'm Daniel Khan. I lead our technology investments in software and AI for the Qatar Investment Authority. And I am very pleased to be joined with both Ping and Scott. And it's both very relevant here because we have somebody who covers the AI application side and somebody from the infrastructure side, specifically on the agents. Let's start off with my first question. That was, as we think about AI used to be a research-specific problem. I'm just curious as to how do you guys think about when did it transition over to becoming a scaling deployment on the enterprise side problem?
Yeah, so thank you for having me and great to be here. My name is Ping Wu, I'm CEO of Cresta, and yeah, from research to production, a lot of time I think research focused on the model capabilities, but in production, in order to get to the business value, there's the last mile that matters. And for last miles, for example, in contact center AI agents, you need to address UX issues, like when the AI agent, how do you establish trust with the consumer? A lot of time the callers, they may not trust the AI agent, they want to get to human, right? How do you overcome that? There are engineering problems, like how do you detect in real time and the AI agent should shut up or speak up and to interrupt. And there are compliance issues, and then there are, when you get to really Fortune 500 enterprise, there are data residency issues that you have to address. And lastly, there's commercial issues, and not every use case will have the same business value. And then on the one hand, you also have the token price, the unit cost there. So how do you balance that? All these issues are not research issues, but these are the problems that we have to solve every day to get to the last mile and get to the business value.
Yeah, and great to be here. I'm Scott from Deepgram, and yeah, my take on this is that research, most people's focus is just, I need the best accuracy. I'll have the most parameters, I'll spend the most on compute, and I just have to get the best accuracy. But for enterprises and products that are building, you need really good accuracy, you need the best accuracy, but you need low latency, you need high throughput, you need it to be reliable, you need it to be able to scale up and down throughout the day. You need it to be efficient so that it can turn into a real business. And then you need to have that system adapt and get better over time. And yeah, this isn't really what a research team thinks about. This is what like a product team thinks about. And then you just have to have a tight integration with that product team and the research team and the infrastructure that it's being built on in order to provide that product.
And perhaps it might also be helpful for the audience here to hear what we were discussing backstage, that there seems to be this disconnect between true enterprise adoption of AI agents, when you listen to any of the earnings call or any of the press commentary, versus on the AI native startups like you guys are, where it sounds like the agent revolution is here, it's happening now. When you listen to the public software company guys, they're like, no, it's not here, it hallucinates, it doesn't work, it's still a long way from production. Just curious to hear, where is the disconnect here?
Yeah, I think I think it's really about a use case. And for custom engagement, AI, it's a perfect use case for agents. And it's solving real problems, and it's really tied to business outcomes that you can measure on every call or every interactions. There are deflection rate and the things that you can automate, or having agents helping humans that take repetitive work out of humans. So there are measurable outcomes that can be delivered. And also, I believe that if you think about at the first principle, what's actually changing is that we have an LLM that's a transformer that mapping sequences as input tokens into the output. So that paradigm works very well for the chat use case on the consumer side, because that can solve a lot of problems.
Sure.
And then that can also work very well for coding in enterprise. And to some degree, and of course, there are a lot of last mile work that we need to do for custom engagement. But it may not work very well into all the other enterprise use cases where all these tokens can be not the same paradigm at consumer side. It's a lot more heterogeneous You have a lot of contacts and from different systems that you need to bridge. And then the output, the human output is doing many different actions. For the model to output that, it's also a lot more heterogeneous. So, in my view, it would just take longer, as we discussed in the backstage. Just like steam engine, it takes multi-decades to really deploy to the end consumers, and I think that will also happen here.
Yeah, I think some helpful ways to think about it are what's possible, what can be shown to be possible. This is more toward that research spectrum, right? And it'll get people excited, and you say, wow, this is something that wasn't possible before, now it is possible. But there's another question that should be asked, can I trust it? Can I scale it? And that's more of a product question and a rollout question, and establishing a trusting relationship with the infrastructure providers and the AI software builders. So when you're thinking like, hey, I want to use Cresta to help out in my call center, can I trust that the product is going to do the job that I want it to do? And that's what they do. That's the last mile, right? And then when you're thinking, yeah, but is it always going to be available? Is it always going to be reliable? Will you have low latency? Will it constantly get better over time? Then this is like what we do at Deepgram. We make sure that is working. And so when you see something new, like today, that's just coming out and it's just possible, well, it takes a little bit of time to turn it into something that you can trust. And so just kind of keep that in mind.
Ping, perhaps relevant for you. So as we think about Cresta, I think with your AI agent assist product, at any one point, there are close to 20 plus LLMs that are running for any agent assist. They're operating at the same time. They have to operate with low latency. And on top of that, they have to work with a human or work without a human.
Yeah.
How do you think about all of that? And when you're selling it to, say, Verizon or CVS, to incorporate your solution there, what are the biggest obstacles to getting that product deployed today?
Yeah, first of all, so it's 20 plus models across all the different product suite that we have.
Okay.
So we have different products, after-call coaching, real-time agent assist, and as well as autonomous AI agents. So collectively, it orchestrates over 20 plus models, but not for every product, it orchestrates 20 plus models. And I think, just as Scott said, it's really about the last mile. And how do you make sure that it's trustworthy? And we build a lot of test cases, guardrails to make sure that the models the agents is performed as expected. And every time there's an update, there's not going to be regression. All these cases that matters in the real production use cases. And then last thing I would say is that a lot of these models, it's not necessarily we optimize for on one dimension. There are multi-dimension. You have to optimize for the right use cases. For example, the type ahead suggestion versus a real-time voice AI agent. The model, the quality and latency and the cost, there's a trade-off that we need to find a balance of. Versus, if it's just a model that in research is optimized for one benchmark.
Yeah.
For in production, you have to optimize for, like a multi-objective optimization.
And Scott, congratulations on the round. Scott just finished fundraising his new round. Regarding that, so now you had SAP, ServiceNow, Citi, all coming into the round as well as financial and strategic investors. What does that tell you about the importance of voice, specifically in AI and on the enterprise side?
It's really interesting. This is something that I have figured out over the last 6 months of fundraising, and I think it's fairly unique to this point in time right now. But I think a lot of the strategic investors and companies that are more AI forward are just sort of having to deal with rolling out products in a short period of time in this intelligence era. They're actually ahead of the financial investors in a lot of ways because they're trying to build with it, like today and yesterday, and they're seeing what works, what doesn't work. They're not necessarily just buying the narratives. Like they try everything, and then they see how that compares across all the offerings. And then they come in with high conviction and say, like, whenever you're raising, we want to be in, or can we lead the round, or whatever it is, right? But this is because they know that the product is working really well in comparison. So yeah, it's been really interesting to raise this round. We raised a $130 million round and announced it a couple weeks ago. And with AVP that led it, and then a whole bunch of people like Tiger and Alkion and BlackRock and other folks. And yeah, I'm really excited about how quickly everybody is sort of starting to appreciate the voice market now. I think a year ago, maybe it's certainly 2 years ago, the voice market wasn't mainstream, you know, and now it is. I think the world went from pessimistic to optimistic. You know, it seems like overnight. It took about 9 months for that to happen, but nevertheless, happy to be in this position now. Yeah.
No, and certainly an incredible roster of investors across for both of you guys.
Yeah.
Now, Ping, you yourself were co-founder of Google Contact Center AI. Scott, or rather Dr. Scott, deep matter physicist or an AI expert. I'm just curious here, when you think about, you have the hyperscalers in the room with their offerings, and then you have really talented founders and startups like yourself that are AI native. What do you think are the edge that you have that versus competing with the behemoths in the room? And then how do you think about where you excel and what would keep you ahead in this race?
Yes, I think it's really about focus, right? So, and also it's about, you know, you have the model layer, and you also have the application layer. For different application use cases, the thickness of that application layer to deliver end business value is very different. For contact centers, for custom experience, that layer, what I learned, is very, very thick. And then in order to deliver the end customer business value and across the entire contact center and custom experience, it's just like a lot of things need to be done that's not model, that's really model agnostic. So if you have a startup, in a startup environment, you can really execute very, very fast, and then also your entire company is focused on solving that problem. So the custom feedback loop is way faster, and it's much easier to incentivize, to organize incentives so that everyone is aligning on solving business problem of the customer. So I think that will be our long-term edge, and just being very, very focused, and then because, you know, itself, the problem space on the application layer is just so massive, so that will give us the edge, and that we've been seeing in the market as well as continue going forward.
Yeah, focus matters, like Ping was mentioning. Agility matters, but the way I like to think about it is, it's not Deepgram versus Google, or Deepgram versus Microsoft or AWS. It's Deepgram versus that one product manager and the roadmap that they had to negotiate with all of their people that they have to try to execute on over the next year, and they don't have the agility to do it, the focus to do it. They don't have the same kind of motivation to do it either. And so that's actually a much more fair fight. It's actually in favor of the startups then, as long as you keep your focus and keep chasing after that, then you're going to win. This is especially true when you're in a new revolution. So we're sort of ending the information revolution now. We're entering the intelligence revolution, and startups are better at it than the hyperscalers. And the smart hyperscalers are partnering with the startups now, and you're going to see that a lot over the next year.
And have the conversations with enterprises changed in the last 6 to 12 months, say, where what started off as like the board pushing down, adopt AI, roll out AI, to now the conversation turning towards agents? Are there real budgets opening up on the agentic side?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that, and then that's almost the demand that comes to the market all at once, and from the board level, and from and then they look at their peers, they see the results, and especially for the area that we're focusing on, it's a really good use case, and it's also very visible because it's customer facing. So we've seen a lot of demand that suddenly get to the market all at the same time.
Got it.
Yeah, when we're planning for Deepgram, so for a long time, Deepgram's a little over $1 billion valuation now. When we first got investment in the company, it was around $1 million valuation, and so we've 1,000x the value of Deepgram in like 10 years, and I'm like, cool, good. But we did that on mostly human power and solely human power, right? But the next 1000x, like Deepgram getting to $1 trillion company, you know, it's not going to be pure humans. It actually, when we're planning out for the company over the next 5 years or next 10 years for the company, the spend on compute that is for agents, you know. So I'm not talking about doing inference or training. I'm talking about just agent workload will be 10 to 100 times more than the human headcount, which is like totally different than how you think about companies today, where typically it's headcount dominated. So yeah, we think about it a lot. Over the last two years, we've deployed a lot of agent workflows and intelligence workflows in Deepgram. We're the largest audio API in the world, and we're only about 150 people. But that's because we've already seen success with agentic workflows.
Yeah, I think another thing I probably can add is that just as Scott said, agents allow you to decouple the output versus headcounts. So I've seen a lot of customers, they're really embracing the abundance mindset. Is like they want to do a lot more interaction with their customers, but currently they cannot do because they are constrained by the headcounts they have in the call centers. And now AI agents can give them now the abundant supply of human-like intelligent interactions, and then they really want to leverage that to bring closer the long-term relationship with their customer they traditionally cannot do.
Yeah, I think $1 trillion companies today typically have like 50,000, maybe 100,000, maybe 150,000 employees. You know? $1 trillion companies in a few years will have like 1,000 employees or 5,000 or 10,000. You know, it'll be an order of magnitude less.
And we're already seeing that from the investment side, where the average revenue per employee on AI native startups like yourself is significantly higher than what it used to be.
Yep. And then there will be a lot of these companies, and then that will grow the markets, you know, drastically. Right now we talk about $3-4 trillion companies as really large. In a few years, it'll be like 20 trillion, you know, $30 trillion companies, but it'll be brought on by the intelligence revolution.
Perhaps the best way to wrap this up is, if you look forward 4 years ahead, Ping, what do you think the contact center of 2029 looks like? And then Scott, for you, what does voice and the importance of voice look like in the application of AI in the enterprise side?
Yeah, I think for contact center 2029, first I think there will be a lot more AI agent calling into the contact center.
Oh wow,
so,
the other way around.
So we're already seeing that. Human-like conversation, you know, type of AI agent that's calling to contact centers, no longer actually human on the other side of the line. And because contact center really is like a human API to an enterprise, we're going to see probably denial of attack, a service attack onto contact centers with flood of AI agents. So that will bring, it's necessary for contact center to also become agentic. There will be a lot more AI agents running in the contact center, and the contact center as a whole will become agentic. It will process information in aggregate form and then informing business on what's actually going on in real time about custom feedbacks. So that's what we're thinking about.
Yeah, and for voice, I think voice actually was suppressed over the last like 20 to 30 years because the internet happened, and text was really the only thing that could be processed really easily and cheaply. But that's no longer true. And as you know, Ping mentioned, voice is the original human API. That's how we originally communicated with each other. Writing came way later, and then you know, even technologically, phone calls happened. You know, but then the internet sort of suppressed that a little bit because of emails and that type of thing. But it wasn't because of any first principles reason. It was because the technology wasn't there yet. Well, now the technology is here. And so anywhere there's a text box, anywhere there's a button, anywhere there's any type of product, you're going to have an option for a voice interface to it. And you'll just start to treat it more like you're interfacing with a human rather than interfacing with a machine. And you know, there's 8 billion people in the world. Each one of us talks on average about an hour and a half a day. So you're talking about, you know, 10, 12 billion hours a day at least, you know, that needs to be processed. We're not even close to even 1% of that, you know, at this point. So it's going to be a drastic change.
Well, certainly we are living in some very exciting times. I think already 2026 is off to a crazy start. And I can't wait for what you guys have ahead of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.